Hello, my friend. I am glad you are here. Tonight, we are going to learn about a gentle and kind genius, someone whose heart was filled with compassion and whose life was a quiet light in the world. We are talking about Pope Francis. But before we begin, let us take a moment to relax together. Take a deep breath in, hold it for a moment, and let it out slowly. Again, breathe in, hold, and breathe out. One more time. Hold and out. Now, let your body rest. Let your shoulders soften. Let your thoughts float like clouds. You are safe. You are welcome. And you are ready for a peaceful story. Let us begin. It was the 17th day of December in the year 1936, when the warm sun rose over the rooftops of Buenos Aires in a small home with creaky wooden floors and soft cotton curtains. A baby boy was born. His mother held him close, her hands trembling with love. She looked into his tiny eyes and gave him a name that felt gentle and strong. Jorge Mario. She whispered it softly. Jorge Mario. Soon, a name filled with hope, a name that would one day echo in churches and homes around the world. But in that quiet moment, it was just a mother and her son, wrapped in warmth and sunlight. The family lived simply in a modest house, where love was the richest thing they had. The smell of bread baking in the kitchen, the sound of his father mending shoes in the next room. Jorge was a quiet baby. He watched everything, listened to everything. The wind through the window, the murmur of voices, the soft hum of the world. Waking up as he grew, he carried that same gentle spirit. He noticed when others were tired. He cared when someone was sad, even when he did not know the words. He knew how to be present. He liked to sit by the window, feet dangling, eyes wide, dreaming, wondering, feeling the world with his whole heart. His mother often said he had an old soul, a soul that felt things deeply, even when he was small. And at night, as stars filled the sky above Argentina, little Jorge would fall asleep to the sound of distant trains and the soft breathing of his family, wrapped in peace, wrapped in love. And as the days moved softly forward, little Jorge continued to grow in the same warm house, with the same quiet love, wrapped in sunbeams and gentle whispers. One afternoon, while the light poured gently through the window, Jorge found a small stack of old papers on the table. They were not special, just papers his father no longer needed. But in Jorge's hands, they became something else. He folded the edges carefully, slowly, one crease at a time, until the paper became a little airplane. It was simple, But when he held it up to the window and let it go, it floated like a feather in the air, soft, light, free. He watched it glide, his eyes wide with wonder, and when it landed quietly near the door, he smiled, a quiet smile, the kind that only a dreaming child can make. From that day on, he folded many more, each one different, each one a new little journey. Sometimes he would write small words on the wings, like peace or hope, sometimes just his name. He imagined the planes flying far beyond the city, over rooftops, over trees, even beyond the clouds. He dreamed of the sky, of flying, not fast, not loud, just floating gently, like the paper in his hand. The other children played loudly outside, but Jorge liked the soft things, the quiet things. His paper airplanes became his secret sky, a way to send his thoughts to places he had never seen, and feel connected to something far away and kind. In the evenings, here we would place one of the little planes beside his bed and watch the moonlight catch its folds, a small dream resting with him, and just before sleep he would whisper, soft and slow, "Maybe one day I will fly too." Then he would close his eyes and drift into dreams where the sky was always waiting, and so the days kept drifting by, soft as feathers on the breeze. Jorge grew a little taller, a little wiser, but he never lost the wonder in his heart. He would sit by the open window for hours, watching the world outside, feeling the soft air brush against his cheeks. The winds of Buenos Aires were gentle in the mornings, carrying the smell of fresh bread from the bakery, the laughter of children playing in the narrow streets, the quiet songs of the birds in the trees. Jorge listened carefully, not just with his ears, but with his whole heart. He believed that the winds carried stories, secrets from faraway places, messages for those who knew how to listen. Sometimes he would close his eyes and imagine he could understand the language of the breeze, soft whispers about distant mountains, quiet songs from the endless ocean, gentle promises of a world filled with beauty and kindness. The paper airplanes still filled his room, some hanging from strings above his bed, others tucked carefully between the pages of his schoolbooks, each one a silent wish, each one a tiny hope, set free on invisible currents. At night, when the moon rose and painted silver shapes on the floor, Jorge would lie very still, listening to the quiet winds, breathing slowly, dreaming deeply. In those moments, he felt connected to something larger, something kind, something patient. He did not have the words for it yet, but deep inside, he knew he was meant to follow the winds wherever they might lead, softly, gently, patiently, just like the paper airplanes he loved so much, carried by dreams, carried by hope. And so the soft winds continued to sing through Jorge's days, filling his heart with dreams, quiet dreams, the kind that grow slowly like tiny seeds in the gentle earth. He was never the loudest child, nor the fastest, nor the strongest, but inside him there was a deep river of kindness, a patient strength that only a few could see. He loved simple things, the way sunlight danced on the floor, the feeling of warm bread in his hands, the sound of his mother's voice calling him for dinner. He paid attention to small miracles, a bird building its nest, a neighbor smiling without a reason, the way the stars seemed to whisper secrets to the night. In school, Jorge was thoughtful and careful. He listened more than he spoke, and when he did speak, his words were gentle and full of meaning. The teachers noticed the way he would help another child pick up fallen books, the way he would share a piece of bread without being asked, the way he would sit quietly with someone who was sad, saying nothing but saying everything. At home, he often helped his father in the small shoe repair shop, handing him nails and leather, watching, learning, not just the craft, but the patience, the dedication, the quiet pride in a day's honest work. At night, after his prayers, Jorge would look out the window once more at the paper airplanes sleeping on the windowsill, and he would dream again, not of riches, not of fame, but of a life filled with kindness, of a world where everyone could feel the same soft winds of hope he felt. And with every new day, the quiet dreams in his heart grew stronger, gently leading him forward, step by step, toward a future he could not yet see, but somehow already believed in. The seasons turned gently, like pages in a book no one rushed to finish. Jorge grew taller, his voice deeper, his footsteps stronger, but his heart remained the same, soft, attentive, full of dreams too big for words. There were moments, quiet moments, when he would sit alone beneath the trees, listening to the world breathe around him. The winds still carried their secret songs, and Jorge still listened more carefully than ever. Sometimes, in the hush of the early morning, or the stillness of late evening, he would feel something stir inside him, a quiet pull, a soft whisper he could not explain. It was not a voice he could hear, not a word he could speak. It was something deeper, older, a call from someplace beyond himself. It made him want to be better, kinder, punctually, more patient, more open to the invisible threads that connected all people. At Mass, with his family, he found himself drawn not only to the rituals, but to the feeling that filled the room, a deep peace, a sense that even in a world full of noise, there was still a place for stillness, a place for wonder. And when he closed his eyes and folded his hands, he could almost feel that call again, tugging gently at his soul. He did not know yet where it would lead, but he knew one thing. He'd follow it wherever it asked him to go, softly, faithfully, like a paper airplane lifted by a quiet breeze, carried by invisible currents toward a sky he had not yet seen, but already trusted. The days moved forward, one slow step at a time, soft as the breeze across an open field. Jorge was growing, not just in body, but in spirit. He did not know what the future would bring, but deep inside, he trusted that each small step mattered, even if he could not yet see where the path would lead. School became more challenging, lessons more complex. The world outside his home felt wider, busier, full of choices and questions, but Jorge moved through it all quietly, carefully, listening still to that deep whisper inside him. He helped his friends with their schoolwork. He cared for his younger siblings with patience. He smiled at strangers, and he prayed often, not always with words, but with simple moments of silent gratitude. Each day felt like a thread, weaving itself into a tapestry he could not yet imagine. There were moments when doubt would creep in, moments when he wondered if he was strong enough, if he was wise enough, if he was ready for the unknown. But then he would remember the paper airplanes, the soft winds, the feeling of being carried by something greater than himself, and he would take another step forward, gentle, hopeful, unhurried, trusting that even the smallest journey begins with one quiet step, taken with faith, taken with love. As Jorge moved forward, the world around him seemed to open wider. Each book he read, each conversation he shared, became a doorway to something new. At school, he was no longer just a quiet boy in the back of the room. He was a thoughtful listener, a gentle questioner, someone who sought not just answers, but deeper understanding. He loved history, the stories of people long gone, the way choices and courage shaped the world. He loved literature, the music of words, the way a simple sentence could carry the weight of a heart. He loved science, the mysteries of stars, the quiet miracles hidden in everyday life. But most of all, Jorge loved to learn about people, their struggles, their hopes, their dreams. He began to see that every person carried a story, that every smile, every tear, every silent prayer was part of something bigger. In the dusty streets of Buenos Aires, in the laughter of children chasing soccer balls, in the quiet sighs of tired workers on the tram, he saw beauty and sadness and hope all woven together. Jorge's mind was opening, but so was his heart, and the quiet call deep within him grew louder, not with noise, but with certainty. He knew, somehow, that his life would not be about seeking greatness for himself, but about walking beside others, sharing their joys, carrying a little of their burden, helping to keep the light alive in a sometimes weary world. Step by step, thought by thought, his spirit stretched gently toward the horizon, ready, patient, full of quiet wonder. The city around him grew louder, faster, more crowded with dreams and worries. But inside Jorge, a quiet space remained untouched, soft and steady, like a small candle flickering in a vast night. As he studied, as he walked the busy streets, as he watched people rush past, he began to feel it more strongly. A whisper, a tug, a calling not made of words. It came in the silence after prayer, in the tired eyes of a stranger, in the soft laughter of a child playing barefoot in the dust. It was a gentle knowing that life was not only about what he could gain, but about what he could give. Sometimes, late at night, Jorge would sit at the edge of his small bed, hands folded loosely, eyes half closed, listening for that whisper, and though he did not yet know its shape, he knew its feeling, warm, patient, full of love. It did not demand, it did not rush, it simply waited, inviting him to step closer, to trust a path that had no map, only faith. Day by day, the whisper grew clearer, and Jorge, with the quiet courage that had always lived inside him, began to prepare his heart for something greater than himself, for a purpose that would ask not for riches, not for fame, but for tenderness, for strength, for an endless compassion, the kind of life that builds bridges where walls once stood, the kind of life that listens more than it speaks, that heals more than it wounds. And so, without fanfare, without knowing when or how, Jorge said yes in his heart, yes to the whisper, yes to the unknown, yes to a life guided by love. The decision was not loud. It did not arrive with lightning or a sudden rush of certainty. It came quietly, like the slow blooming of a flower, like the soft unfolding of morning light across a still field, Jorge knew, somewhere deep inside, that he was ready to give his life to something greater, ready to walk a path that asked for his whole heart, his patience, his gentleness, his strength. He did not think of it as sacrifice. He thought of it as a gift, a way to live each day with meaning, to hold others in kindness, to be a quiet shelter for those in need. In the months that followed, Jorge spoke carefully with his family, with his teachers, with the wise voices who had guided him from boyhood, and always he listened, not only with his ears, but with his soul. He asked for guidance in prayer. He walked alone through the parks of Buenos Aires, letting the breeze and the soft chatter of the city fill the spaces between his questions. And with every step, with every breath, the answer stayed the same. Yes, you are ready. Not because you know everything, not because you are fearless, but because your heart is willing. And so, one clear morning, under a wide blue sky, Jorge took his first official steps toward a life of service, a life not built on walls, but on bridges, a life not ruled by pride, but lifted by love. He was still young, still learning, still full of questions, but he carried within him a quiet certainty that love would lead the way. One step, one prayer, one act of kindness at a time. The day Jorge began his formal studies, the sun rose quietly over Buenos Aires, soft and golden, as if blessing the path before him. He carried only a small bag, a few notebooks, and a heart full of quiet hope. There were no grand speeches, no crowds to cheer him on, just a simple doorway, a classroom waiting, and a handful of others who, like him, had heard a whisper inside their hearts. The early days were simple, filled with long hours of reading, gentle discussions, and silent reflection. Jorge moved through it all with patience. Each lesson, each prayer, each humble meal became a step on a path that stretched out before him, wide and unknown. Some days were easy, filled with laughter among new friends, the sharing of dreams under starlit skies. Other days were harder, lonely, tiring, full of questions that had no quick answers. But Jorge never hurried, never pushed. He trusted the slow work of growth. Then the quiet weaving of strength and humility inside him. He woke early each morning before the city stirred, and sat in stillness, listening to the soft breathing of the world. He learned not just with his mind, but with his heart, how to be present, how to listen, how to hold both joy and sorrow with open hands. Each small lesson, each small step was shaping him not into someone grand or powerful, but into someone deeply human, someone who could walk beside others with kindness and grace. The new journey had begun, and Jorge, with steady feet and an open heart, was ready to follow wherever it might lead. In the quiet halls of study, Jorge learned many things. He studied history, philosophy, the deep and endless questions of faith, but the lessons that shaped him most were not found only in books or written on chalkboards. They lived in the simple moments, the unnoticed places, the quiet exchanges of daily life. He learned from the old gardener who tended the small courtyard with patient hands, teaching that care is an act of love. He learned from the cook in the kitchen, whose meals, though plain, were prepared with a warmth that filled more than the stomach. He learned from the quiet smiles exchanged between students, from the silent prayers whispered at dawn, from the heavy burdens that some carried without complaint. Jorge came to see that wisdom is not always loud. It often wears the face of kindness and walks in the shoes of humility. Each day he listened more deeply, not only to the words spoken, but to the spaces in between, where real understanding blooms. He watched, he learned, he grew. The heart, he discovered, is the man, the greatest classroom of all, and slowly, gently, his own heart was being shaped into something softer, stronger, wider than it had ever been before. These were the lessons that would stay with him long after the books were closed, long after the walls of the classroom faded into memory. Lessons written not in ink, but in love. Lessons that would guide every step of the life waiting ahead. Strength is often imagined as loud, as something that shouts and commands attention, but Jorge was learning a different kind of strength, a strength that moved like roots beneath the soil, steady, patient, unseen. Each day added a thin layer, a quiet resilience, a deeper trust in something beyond himself. The long hours of study, the simple meals shared with others, the slow walks through the courtyard under the setting sun, all of it shaping him. He learned to hold discomfort with grace, to face uncertainty without fear, to find peace even when the answers were not clear. Some days were heavy, the weight of questions pressing against his spirit. Yet, even on those days, he chose to stay open, to listen, to trust that every step mattered, even the ones that felt small. Jorge found strength in silence, in prayer, whispered into the cool morning air, in the soft rhythm of his breath, in the steady beating of his heart. He did not rush to be finished. He did not grasp at titles or praise. Instead, he allowed himself to grow, slowly, deeply, honestly. This silent strength, built in hidden places, would one day become the foundation for all he was meant to be. But for now, it was enough just to keep walking, one soft step at a time, guided by a quiet courage and a love that grew brighter with each passing day. The seasons turned quietly, and with them, Jorge grew, not only in knowledge, but in something deeper, something softer and stronger than before. One morning, as the first light stretched across the quiet city, Jorge felt a gentle stirring within him, a call that had been growing slowly, patiently, in the hidden rooms of his heart. It was not a voice from the sky, not a flash of lightning, but something simpler, quieter, a soft knowing that his path was not meant for him alone. He was being asked to walk beside others, to listen to their joys, their sorrows, their hopes too heavy to carry alone. He was being asked to become a shepherd, one who leads not by force, but by love. The thought filled him with a quiet reverence, and also with humility, for he knew the weight of such a call was not an honor to wear, but a burden to carry gently with both hands open wide. There was no great announcement, no sudden change in the way he walked or spoke, only a deeper stillness inside him, a steady flame growing stronger with every quiet yes. And so Jorge stepped forward, one simple step at a time, ready to serve, ready to love. Newton so ready to illuminate, ready to guide not with power, but with the steady light of a humble heart. The world around him continued, as always, busy, loud, restless. But within Jorge there was a calm river flowing, carrying him toward a life he was now ready to live. Jorge walked the narrow streets of the city, not above the people, but among them. He listened to their stories, their worries, their dreams carried quietly behind tired eyes. He sat with the old woman selling fruit at the corner. He blessed the child running barefoot across dusty roads. He laughed with young workers finishing long shifts, and he prayed beside those who had lost more than words could say. He was not distant. He was near, a steady presence, a quiet comfort. Jorge did not seek to change the people from above. He chose to walk beside them, sharing their joys and their struggles as his own. He visited homes where the walls were thin and the meals were few. He spoke softly where pain hung heavy in the air. He brought no grand solutions, no empty promises, only the gentle gift of presence and a heart that listened in every handshake, in every whispered prayer, in every smile given without expectation. Jorge built bridges of trust, not with speeches, but with simple acts of love. The people began to see not just a priest in robes, but a brother, a friend, someone who carried their burdens in his own heart. And slowly, tenderly, the bond between them grew, rooted in trust, fed by kindness, blooming with hope. Jorge was learning that to lead was first to love, and that love was strongest when it was shared freely, without condition, without fear. Time moved forward like a slow, steady river, and with each passing year, Jorge's quiet love for the people shone more brightly. Those around him began to see not just his kindness, but the deep wisdom he carried, a wisdom shaped by listening, by serving, by loving, without asking for anything in return. It was not ambition that lifted Jorge into new role. It was trust, the trust of those who had seen him walk among them, sit beside them, pray with them in silence, and in sorrow. He was asked to lead, first small groups, then larger ones, always with the same gentle spirit, always with the same steady gaze that said, "I am here for you." Jorge accepted each new responsibility, not with pride, but with humility, seeing leadership not as a ladder to climb, but as a deeper way to serve. There were days when the burden felt heavy, when the needs of the people seemed endless, iron, and the path forward looked uncertain. But Jorge returned always to the simple truths, to kindness, to patience, to the quiet strength that had carried him this far. He did not seek power. He did not chase titles. He simply followed the thread of love, one soft step at a time. And in doing so, he rose, not in the eyes of the world alone, but in the hearts of all who knew him, a shepherd still, but now with more to carry, and even more to give. The years moved on, as quietly as a soft breeze at dusk. Jorge grew older, his steps a little slower, his hair touched with silver, but his spirit remained steady, as bright and warm as ever. He continued to walk among the people, to listen, to bless, to love without condition. The world around him changed. Cities grew taller, voices grew louder, but Jorge's heart remained the same, rooted in simplicity, anchored in compassion. When he was called to even greater heights, to stand before millions, he did not stand taller. He only knelt deeper, knowing that true greatness was found in serving the smallest among them. And so he led, not with power, but with tenderness, not with pride, but with a humble heart wide open, those who met him felt not the weight of authority, but the warmth of a friend. And even as his days grew fewer, his light grew stronger, spreading across oceans and mountains, whispering to hearts he would never meet, a light that said, "You are seen, you are loved, you are never alone." When at last his journey reached its gentle end, the world did not fall silent. It sang softly with every soul he had touched, with every heart he had lifted, because love like his does not end, it endures, carried forward in countless lives, a soft, steady flame, lighting the way for all who follow. And in the quiet spaces of the world, where hope flickers and kindness blooms, or his light still shines, a gift that time can never take away. On a quiet Easter Sunday, or his journey, a life of compassion, service, and gentle strength, came to a peaceful close on April 21st in the year 2025. He was 88 years old, surrounded by prayers. Ishimigiri, arms full of note, pressed, wrapped in love, he left the world quietly. After a stroke and a gentle final breath, just one day before, he had stood before the world once more, blessing thousands in St. Peter's Square on Easter Sunday, his heart still full of hope, still reaching for the people he loved so dearly. His last words, spoken softly to his caregiver, Mayum, were simple, an expression of pure gratitude, a whisper of thanks that rose into the heavens as news of his passing traveled the world. Mourners gathered, candles flickered in the night. Thin tears fell, prayers rose like mist into the skies. He was laid to rest, not inside the grand Vatican, but in the quiet beauty of the Basilica of St. Mary Major, just as he had wished, in a simple wooden casket, carved with the word Franciscus. The Novendias began 9 days of prayer and remembrance, while the Church and the world paused to honor a soul that had carried so much light. Jorge's life was never about grand power or glittering throne. It was about walking beside the lonely, lifting up the weary, and planting seeds of peace where there was once despair. His light has not gone out. It shines now in every act of kindness, in every hand held in comfort, in every voice that dares to whisper hope. And so tonight, as you close your eyes, may the gentle spirit of Jorge, Pope Francis, settle softly over you. May you be blessed with peace. May you feel wrapped in the love he gave so freely. And may you always know that you too carry a light that can warm the world. Good night. Sweet dreams. May you rest under a sky full of stars, each one a silent song of love.